So let's start this video where we'll talk about the documents in detail. So to start the video, let me tell you that there are two different guides through which you can actually get to know about this program. There's this basic guide 5525, and then there is this complete guide which is known as IMM 5289. Now these are just numbers, you can ignore them, these are just for the references. Just think of it as a complete guide, as a book that you can refer for every small detail. Now why there are two different guides? The first guide is just to give you an overview, the details, the eligibility, all those details that I made in that first video. It will tell you about that and some extra details as well about some specific cases, so you get to understand the process and you're well aware about it. So this is the basic guide. The complete guide, as the name suggests, is a very detailed guide, and obviously just by looking at it, just by reading it, you can actually complete the application forms, you can actually complete the complete process just by reading this complete guide. This is very helpful. However, this is too long, so it gets confusing for people and there are questions that still remain, so I'll help you with those as well. So just to give you an example, in this complete guide you will see what answers do you have to give in the application forms that you have to fill. Just for example, this is one application form and here they have told about what answers do you need to give in detail. So people, if you're confused, you can check this complete guide and you'll get an idea about it. Okay, so scrolling up here, which all documents you need. So just click on this one, get your application kit. When you click on this one, it comes over to this section here. Here they have given one more link which will take you to your application package. So I will open this in a new tab and let's see what's in there. So here they have given some more details. It gives references to the basic guide and then it comes down to your checklist, forms and instructions. So basically you can download a complete application package through this web page here. Okay, so how can you download that? So for that you have to answer a couple of questions and you'll be done. First of all, who are you sponsoring? So if you're sponsoring a spouse, a legal spouse, then you can answer that. And if you're sponsoring only a dependent child or a common law partner, you can actually answer accordingly, but I'll just select spouse here. Let's say if your spouse is residing in India, so I would select India here, and then it asks some questions that you need to submit documents issued by any other country. So maybe the birth certificate of your spouse is from other countries, so in that case you need to select other country as well, but I would just give you a very general example here. So just click on this get checklist and forms. I would not select any other country here. So here you will see that it will tell you about that basic guide. You know about it already. Then it will tell you about this complete guide. You already know about it. Then it will tell you about a checklist. So this is very important. This checklist will help you a lot. So I've already downloaded it. You can see it here. This is the checklist that I'm talking about. This is IMM 5533. Then here you see the other forms that you need to fill. Remember, the spousal sponsorship program as of 2020 is a paper-based application, so you need to fill all of these forms, take a printout of them, sign them, and then send it to a particular address. These three forms are for the sponsor. So let's say husband is the sponsor and wife is living there in India. All these forms would be for the sponsor to fill out. I've downloaded them already. So we have IMM 1344 here. So I've downloaded this one. This is IMM 1344. Then after that IMM 5532. So we have IMM 5532 here as well. Then after that IMM 5476. So I have IMM 5476 as well. Then after that, these are the forms required for the sponsored person, the principal applicant. This would differ from one country to the other. So let's say if your spouse which is being sponsored is living in Albania, in that case the requirements would be different and you should check accordingly. I'm just giving you an example here for India. So this is another form that would be required. I have downloaded that as well. So after that, it is asking for some other documents, like if you have an adopted child, you have to submit his or her passport. Apart from that, you have to submit the birth certificate issued in India. Apart from that, you would need a biometrics. That would be something to do later. Okay, now this was for a person living in India, and India was just an example. If just in case the person which is being sponsored is living in Canada itself, in that case, let's see which all documents would be required. So you can see that the forms are more or less the same. They're in fact exactly same, but there are no other documents required for country specific requirements. Most of the people who are living in Canada already, they must have submitted some documents when they got their visas, so it is not required in that case. Okay, now once you have downloaded all of these checklist, the forms, now let's see which all documents are required, which other documents are required here. So we'll get to know it from this checklist. So let's go back to this checklist and see what's in there. So basically this checklist needs to be there on the top of all those documents which you have to send. So here this is mentioned, the document checklist, because you have to keep it there. So you can select it, and then after that it is talking about the IMM 1344. It is written here that this form must be signed by both you, the sponsor, and the person who's getting sponsored, so please make sure of that. Okay, then the application fee. Now after you're done with arranging all the documents, then you have to pay the fee and also attach the receipt of that fee in that application package. So it is talking about that receipt of application fees. Okay, now you can also select this right of permanent residence fee if you're paying that. I would suggest you should pay all in one go. Now the financial evaluation. Please note that only complete this form if the person you are sponsoring has one or more dependent children, who has one or more dependent children on their own. So for many people this point would not be required, so you need not submit this form IMM 1283. So if this does not apply to you, write NA next to the checkbox. Okay, moving ahead. Now it will ask you for the class of application. Which class are you actually applying for? If your spouse is living in Canada, then you can select this one. If your spouse is living outside of Canada, in that case you could select this one. Okay, now apart from that, just in case if you're applying for open work permit application, as I told you in the first video, you can apply for the open work permit only if your case is an inbound application. For an outland, you cannot apply for the work permit. So if you're applying for the open work permit, you can select yes. I'll tell you about the open work permit documents or the details about it in some other video. If you're not applying, you can just select no here. Okay, you can select either one of them. Now let's scroll down. Here you have to submit this document IMM 0008, and if you need any help, you can definitely get it from the complete guide. This link is for that complete guide that I was talking about earlier. Okay, now the country specific requirements. So just in case if there is any requirement for your country, you should definitely submit that thing as well. Okay, then after that it would be additional family information IMM 5406. Then after that you should submit this IMM 5669. So if you go onto this form, towards the last of it, you actually need to put in your name. So whatever your name is, let's say my name is Shitanshu Tiwari. Then after that I need to provide a signature here as well. This is the mistake that I did in submitting my wife's application. I ignored that we have to sign here as well, and my application package was returned. I wasted one complete month because of that. So please don't do that mistake. Here it is written specifically that provide a handwritten signature next to the typewritten name in the signature box, and that is just one example in this complete application package. So this is the unique one, and I wanted to point it out so you don't do this mistake just like me. Okay, now some of the forms which are to be filled by both the sponsor and the principal applicant. So this is the form IMM 5532. Then after that you have to sign the this form as well, 5476. You can select if you're supporting a representative or not. Now, I won't get into too much detail in this video about what you have to fill in the forms and what you don't. So moving on, there you have some supporting documents which are required. Now please note that all these documents can be either in English or French. So just in case if your documents are not in English or not in French, in that case you need to get them translated. So please make a note of that. So the supporting documents for sponsors. So you have to send the photocopies. Please note you don't have to send the originals. So what are your supporting documents? If you're a permanent resident, in that case you have to submit your permanent resident card. I mean the photocopy of the card. If you're a Canadian citizen, then you have to submit the citizenship certificate or the passport, and accordingly. Okay, you have to fill this section as well, where if you're living in Canada, then you have to select yes, then no problem. If not, then you have to give a detailed answer that when will you actually move to Canada when your spouse gets here. Okay, then after that there's a question about having a children who can be a Canadian citizen. So for most of the people it would not be the case, so I would skip this one. Now about the previous relationship. So you can definitely check this point out as well. If just in case you have a divorce, you should be submitting all of those documents as well. If the sponsor is working in Canada, in that case you should provide an original letter from your current employer stating your period of employment, salary, hours per week, and support financial documents if you are self-employed. And also you have to select either one of them. You have to provide either one of these documents, notice of assessment or income statement, proof of income statement. You can find these two documents in your CRA portal. Okay, if you're not working in Canada, you have to provide some explanation how you're going to support your spouse. Supporting documents for the sponsored person, the principal applicant. Let's say in our example, the wife who's living in India or maybe who's here in Canada. In that case, you should actually be giving your passport copies. So I think it would include all the pages of your passport where there's any stamp or there's any visa. If you're living in Canada, in that case you should provide proof of your status in Canada. Let's say if you're here on a study permit or a temporary visa, you should provide that document as well. The birth certificate is also required, so you should also select that. Then after that you should also provide the copies of national identity card. So let's say if you are an Indian citizen, in that case you should provide a copy of your Aadhaar card. Alright, now the civil status documents. You have to provide your marriage certificate, which is very important. Then about the previous relationships, if you have had a divorce, you should provide some other documents and like that. Moving on to the other one, this section is for the children. Moving on, this is about the police clearance certificate. So this is very important. You need to have a police clearance certificate from your home country and also from where you lived more than 6 months in the last 10 years. So this is also required. Then you need to provide 2 recent photographs according to a particular specification. You can get the specification if you click on this link. And after that, medical examination. Okay, so this is not required at this moment. This is just mentioned here and specifically written that do not complete a medical examination at this time. They'll ask you for this and then you need to go for that. Okay, now the proof of relationship to sponsor. This is a very interesting part because here we need to provide some personal details and proof of our personal relationships. You and your spouse currently living together. If no, then you need to provide a proof of contact. Just like you have to provide the letters, printed text messages, emails, or maybe WhatsApp chat or Facebook Messenger chat, something like that to give them the trust that you have been in contact since long. You have to provide a maximum of 10 pages within your application. Do not provide too much of it. However, try to find all those communications in English. If it is not in English, in that case you need to get the translations done as well. Then you can check the other point as well. You have to provide the proof of your sponsor's visit, etc, etc. Now, if in case the spouse is living in Canada, in that case, which all documents do you need to provide? Proof of joint ownership of a residential property. So let's say you own a house. In that case, you should have the names of both the spouses in the ownership letter. Most of the people would be living in a rental space. In that case, you should provide the rental agreement showing both you and the sponsor as occupants. So just in case if you don't have it, you can request your landlord or the agency through which you have got your rental agreement. It can be amended and your spouse's name can be added in it. Please note, you have to select and provide only 2 of these. So if you can manage, let's say, these 2, then in that case this is not required. Alright, so maybe you have some joint utility accounts like electricity, telephone, internet, or maybe joint credit card accounts or joint bank accounts. That would all help. Vehicle insurance can also help. So these all are the things that you have to provide. 2 of them you have to provide. Alright, okay, just in case if you're not able to provide 2 of them, then in that case you should provide an explanation why you're not able to provide that. Okay, now these are the 4 questions. These 4 questions are very crucial because after this it is written that if you did not answer yes to all 4 of the above questions, you have to provide some other documents as well. Which are those documents? This is about your photos of your wedding, customary celebrations, engagements, etc. You have to provide a maximum of 20 photographs. So let's say you got married in India. We know how fancy marriages in India are. There are so many functions. Of course, there's marriage, there's reception sometimes, there are engagements, there are many other functions. So try to include pictures from all of those functions, maybe one picture from one function. You can get pictures from your past as well. If you've been in a relationship for long, you can include those pictures. You can include some old pictures where you look different. So just by looking at the picture, they can guess that yes, this is an old picture and you guys have been together for long. Try and include those pictures where there are more people, so it is a proof that there are many people in your marriage and it was a legal marriage, it was a legitimate marriage. But please note, you have to provide a maximum of 24 photographs, and at the back of it you need to provide the details about those photographs as well. Everything is written here, quite obvious and understandable. Then after that, you also need to provide some other documents as well, and from these options you have to select 2 of them. Maybe you can provide a documentary evidence of financial support between you and your sponsor when you have some shared expenses. So maybe if the husband is in Canada and the wife is in India, you have sent some money, you can provide a proof of that. If you have got a joint account, you can provide a proof of that. And this is one easy option, that you can actually get some letters from your friends and family members, maybe 3 or 4 different letters where they say that they attended your marriage, they really enjoyed it, and they wish you for your future. Very simple letter explaining that they are your friends, they are your families. And again, even if you could not provide any of these, then you have to provide an explanation for that. So that's it. Those were all the documents that you need to provide. After that, in this section, they have specifically mentioned the signatures where you have to do it in different forms. Let's say in MMM 1344, the sponsor is there, the principal applicant is there. Similarly in the other forms as well, who has to sign and in which form, it has also been marked in this checklist. So this checklist is very, very important. It will make sure that you don't do any mistakes, and it will make sure that you don't miss any of those forms, any of those documents. Please select these only once you have filled those forms, got them signed, and then kept it in your application package. So this is the complete application package. Please read every point very carefully. I would suggest you read the basic guide firstly. You'll get a lot of idea about the process, and then after that you can read the complete guide as well. I'll provide you the links for both of these basic and the complete guides, and the link to download this application package as well. Guys, be very careful. There is no scope of doing any mistakes here. When I was doing it for my wife, I did not find any video on YouTube which was so much detailed. So I thought that once I complete this process, I will make detailed videos about it so that it will help anyone out there who's in trouble. You don't need to hire an immigration consultant. You can do it all by yourself. So thank you guys for watching this video. If it was helpful for you, please let me know through your comment, through your like. If you think it could be helpful for your friend, please share it with them. And yes, if you haven't subscribed my channel yet, please subscribe it so that you can get to know about the videos that I upload regularly. Thanks again for watching this.